What's up, guys? I have today another Open Great League team for you. Shout out to Vergy. I did not realize at the time when I was building this team, but my team has evolved to kind of become very similar to the team he does like to use. So I did want to go into a bit of the team building process this time to show how I did arrive at this independently, and it's a pretty good insight into the team building process as well. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy this new take on it. But yes, Vergy runs Scrafty. I knew he was a Scrafty user. I did not know he ran Hypno as his lead for it. So we'll dive a little bit into this team. But before that, I would like to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. Could not be doing this without you guys. So as we jump into this video, if you're quick, you can see that the lead is going to be Bronzong for this first set. I cannot update this graphic in real time, unfortunately, so I will just tell you that Bronzong runs Confusion, Psyshock, and Bulldoze. So it's not that versatile. It definitely doesn't have the versatility of Hypno. But we'll talk a little bit about the team building process. So a double Dark team, you need to be able to account for Dark's weaknesses, right? So those weaknesses would be namely Fighting and Fairy. And if you'll notice the subtyping of my Dark Pokemon, that would be Grass and Fighting, they're both also weak to Flying types. So you need to account for Fairy, Fighting, and Flying. The three Fs, I guess, of Pokemon Go. So by all intents and purposes, if you look at Bronzong, the Psychic typing of Bronzong would deal with the Fighting types, and the Steel typing of Bronzong should be able to deal with the Fairy types and the Flying types, as it resists both. And it doesn't have a Steel type attack and move anyways, so it doesn't really matter that it's not dealing super effective damage back. So in theory, Bronzong works pretty well, but it just doesn't put out the shield pressure that you kind of want. Shiftry is very shield dependent. Scrafty is surprisingly shield dependent. Boosted foul plays hurt so much, and the fact that you're dealing fighting damage with your fast move and dark damage with your charge move means that a lot of the time you really do need shields now. Like if it's a ghost Pokemon, you can't even hit them, right? And unless their shields are down. So Scrafty is also surprisingly shield dependent, and Bronzong just doesn't really apply that pressure. The other big elephant in the room here is Azumarill, right? So with Bronzong on the team, only one Pokemon comfortably beats Azumarill, that's Shiftry. And Shiftry is not the lead, so this is a bit of a problem. So that's one of the other reasons we did end up switching to Hypno here. Because let's take a look at Hypno for a second. Obviously, Psychic type fighting isn't an issue. Fairy types, well, most of the Fairy types don't really exist in Great League. The exception is Azumarill, and I would say even Whimsicott might be more common than Wigglytuff, and both of those are weak to Thunder or Ice Punch. And then we'll take a look at the flying types. Every flying type in Great League is either weak to Ice or Electric, and a lot of them are double weak to it. So in this way, Hypno actually does kind of counter these flying types and actually puts out a lot of shield pressure on them because they'll be more likely to shield a punch than they would be to shield what they know is almost certainly a Psyshock. So that was kind of the reasoning between swapping between it. You can see in these games that Bronzong actually did work reasonably well. I had 2 days of straight positive sets with Bronzong, like nothing fancy, just 4 1s and 3 2s the whole day. Hypno kind of stayed that up. I think I had almost every set was a 4-1 with the Hypno lead, so it did kind of add some consistency there. It allowed those farm downs, like after you swap in Shiftry and it gets destroyed by a fighter, the farm down from Hypno is much more meaningful than the farm down from Bronzor because it can kind of hit anything that comes in. It just works a little bit better. So we're going to see a Swampert lead here. Was this Dunebug? Maybe it is. I didn't read the name fast enough, but they're going to swap into Deoxys Defense versus Shiftry. And I'm going to shield just because I know I can pressure a shield back, and like I said, I want to get these shields down. Unfortunately, they do have a Swampert there who also wants shields down, but I'm going to be able to get to 2 Leaf Blades here. So that's why the shield is ultimately going to end up being worth it. Yeah, so I'm going to probably go back in with the Bronzong here just to farm up a little bit more energy But the problem here is now I have a Bronzong with energy. I can't even really hit the Swampert back that hard. So this Side Shock is going to do a decent amount of damage, but it doesn't really threaten all that much. And this Skarmory is going to come in, and it is unshielded, so I'm going to just go straight Foul Play. In hindsight, I probably should have went Power Up Punch Foul Play, but it's honestly pretty hard to learn this part of this Scrafty, so when they have shields down, it's not about baits anymore, but it would have been nice to perhaps have more energy going into this match and maybe get off a Power Up Punch or something like that to make this a little bit more comfortable. As you can see, they're going to just get to that charge move there, so Bronzong isn't quite able to finish the job here. So I'm not sure how many wins we missed, or if we missed any at all. Oh yeah, so this, we're going to run into game versus Dunebug here, one of the top players in GBL and in Sylph, and it's going to be another Swampert lead, so not a great lead for Bronzong, and that's weird. This is starting to look like almost the same team. So I guess Swampert and Skarmory are a pretty good core, so it does make a lot of sense. I'm just going to straight Foul Plays. No need to bait here at all. And I'm actually going to make them throw their energy, and I realize that I can actually win switch advantage back, which is important because I do want to line up my Shiftry versus Swampert. The problem is that their Swampert can just come back in and farm down Scrafty, so they do have a little bit of an energy advantage and a shield advantage. So while Shiftry normally has a very good matchup versus Swampert, this is really rough. So I swapped to catch the Sludge Wave, and he actually baited. So this was super unfortunate for me. I actually countered correctly and then got punished for it. But it is what it is. It was good bait by him. And in this case, I had to call the bait. I couldn't blow a shield there, otherwise it was game over anyways. So well played to him. You can't win them all, but this is something where S-hadow Hypno would apply a little bit more fast move pressure than Bronzong as well, being the more defensive option. So Alolan Marowak, you swap in Shiftry. Shiftry does not actually lose to Alolan Marowak. Shiftry beats Alolan Marowak in the 1 shield. Alolan Marowak can take it to the 2 shield though, and it'll win. But they swap in Galvantula, which Shiftry certainly beats in the 2 shield. I actually went for the Leaf Blade first, which is maybe a bit of a mistake because usually you do that on the lead instead, but it ends up working out. I'm going to win the 1 shield there, and Alolan Marowak is going to come back in. So they have plans to farm down Shiftry, but in my mind, that's not too bad of a thing, just because energy on Alolan Marowak is normally dangerous, but when you have a dark type, it isn't that dangerous anymore. So we're going to see this Dugong come in, and while Scrafty is very good against Dugong, I elect to throw my Bronzong in there because Bronzong is awful against Alolan Marowak, so I'm essentially just sacrificing this Bronzong here. I'm going to try and farm down this Dugong. If it KOs me, I don't even care. That's just more energy for my Scrafty. But it doesn't, and they swap quickly, and yeah, that's a good play from them. I could have got the Bulldoze off, which would have been absolutely huge. But in hindsight, I do not. And so the Alolan Marowak matchup is a bit tricky too. I go for the Foul Play first. In hindsight, I should probably have gone for the Power Up Punch. I think when Alolan Marowak is near full health and no shields, you go for Power Up Punch first and then Foul Play. Otherwise, you can't really do anything. And they actually swap and catch this Foul Play, so I might have actually lost this game as well. Oh, no, I remember this game. So they lag at the end here. This is sped up 2 times, so I wait a considerable amount of time. I think like 5 or 6 seconds, and they don't come back. So I'm not sure if that's the classic case if you put your phone down. Yeah, because they did deserve that win. I don't know what was going on. Bone Club should hit harder than that, but it is what it is. So this is me swapping to that Hypno after I've decided Ice Punch and Thunder Punch. Yeah, while PvPoke didn't recommend it as like a type that counters flying types, that's because it doesn't recommend it with Thunder Punch and Ice Punch, right? So you got to be careful about what movesets you're using. So we're going to see the swap into Azu right here, and I'm going to swap right into Shiftry. This is such a dominating matchup, Shiftry versus Azu. You should be completely fine spending shields. You want to charge up and be counting their moves. You want to end this, because for each time they get to an Ice Beam or a play rough, you can get to, for each play rough, you can get to 2 Leaf Blades. So look, I'm going to charge up way over, and I'm counting. So they shouldn't be, and they're throwing play rough. So I'm assuming they don't have Ice Beam. So they let this through, and I have Leaf Blades galore for whatever comes in. So even this Toxic Croak that would love to farm down, Shiftry is going to eat a ton of Leaf Blades to the face, and not really have any play. So that's the other negative about Bronzong, is that when Bronzong comes back in after a Toxic Croak farm down, the Mud Bomb really, really hurts, whereas Hypno can kind of tank any charge move. And now they're going to come with the Galarian Stunfisk. So this team, honestly, amazing versus the Azu Galarian Stunfisk in the back teams. There's just nothing they can do. Kind of punishes the meta. So Scrafty versus Galarian Stunfisk is a very important matchup as well. You can no shield 1 Rock Slide and 1 Earthquake. Then you minimize the amount of farm down they have. Like, it might look a bit dicey with the Rock Slide at the end, but you'll survive, I think. Like, my Scrafty is not very good IVs. It is 100% Scrafty. It's actually best buddied too, because it was meant for Ultra League before they messed with the level caps. So now it's kind of a worthless best buddy, but it does hit the 1500 mark in Great League. So that's good. We're going to see a Shadow Victory lead, and this is Vigoroth. So Vigoroth, pretty good versus my backline, I will say. What I'm trying to do is weaken it a little bit, because I don't need my full HP to deal with that Shadow Victory Bell. I'm instead going to weaken a little bit so I can guarantee switch advantage, because I know that's what the other team wants. And I'm going to come in with Scrafty, and I'm going to have a charge move ready so that when Victory Bell comes back in, I can burn a shield. And that's what this is all about, burning shields versus this Victory Bell. So I'm going to come back in with Hypno. I'm almost certain they're going to swap out, but I throw the Ice Punch anyway, so this is my loss condition, like an idiot. But I'm going to swap into Shiftry. So Shiftry is pretty powerful versus the core of Bastion and Shadow Victory Bell. They definitely need shields to beat it. And while I definitely need shields to beat Bastion as well, Flamethrower will KO. But what I want them to do is burn a shield on their Bastion here. If I can get them to burn a shield, so if I get them to burn a shield on their Bastion, I just need to get to 1 charge move versus their Victory Bell. And I will with the Shiftry after they swap right back in. I don't think this will be enough to KO the Victory Bell. Oh, it will. It's very close with Shiftry at that point. But my Hypno already has energy stored, and even though they managed to swap right away and catch that Ice Punch, I'm able to still win. So this team, honestly, you'll see it has play versus both versions of Grass Hole, the Bastion lead and the Victory Bell lead. So it's like, I don't know, people complain a lot about Grass Hole, but it's not very hard to counter both versions of it with one team. The Toxic Croak lead again. So I'm getting a lot of good leads this set. That'll change, don't worry. I didn't just pick a bunch of sets with good leads. But here's the standard play versus Galarian Stunfisk. I throw a power-up punch so that I only have to eat an Earthquake and a Rock Slide. So, yeah. I'm no-shielding this, not because I'm brave, but because I've played this matchup like 20 times now. And we'll see what they come back in with, and it's going to be the Toxic Croak, so just hit it as hard as you can with a foul play. Like, I'm already boosted with a power-up punch, so it actually does quite a bit of damage, even though it is resisted. And I'm going to come back in with the Hypno and just instant swap to that Shiftry. So, look, same team, Toxic Croak, Galarian Stunfisk, Azumarill. I don't know if someone else released that team, but if you're running Azumarill and Galarian Stunfisk in the back, this team is not going to be good news for you. It honestly counters quite a bit of the meta. We're seeing a Bomb Snow lead here as well. I can't really swap out of this. Scrafty would love to face this Bomb Snow, but Shiftry just can't afford it. Luckily, Hypno's so versatile, and many Shadow Hypnos are running Fire Punch that I will likely get a shield out of this. So, get a shields. I'm probably going to have to spend one of my own in order to be able to burn another shield here. And they're actually just going to let it through, and I have to make a decision on whether I want to spend a shield here to maintain switch advantage, and I think it's important just because I haven't swapped yet, so I can't guarantee that they have a fighter. So look, they have a Toxic Croak now, so it is very important that I spent my shield. But unfortunately, this Toxicroak is going to have enough energy for a Sludge Bomb and is likely going to be able to take out my Shadow Hypno unless they throw their energy. Yeah, so I'm in quite a bit of trouble here. I understand that they're at a Sludge Bomb, so I actually try and go into Scrafty to catch it, but they don't throw right away. They play it pretty smart, cool, calm, and collected, and my switch timer's not up, so a little bit of a mistake there for sure, and they have a Shadow Hypno, so there's nothing I can really do here. So well played by my opponent. This is kind of what happens when your back two aren't totally in sync, right? Like Shiftry beats Azu, Scrafty beats Abomasnow, but not the other. Next battle versus Dave Dang. Very good battler as well. I see a Galvantula lead. This is an interesting lead. Somehow I don't get my fast move through, but that's okay. I'm going to shield the lunge and then swap because Shiftry does a pretty good job and Scrafty does a decent job against Galvantula once it's this low. He's going to try and get a lunge off, and he will. So I'm 2 shields down now, but Glaring Sunfist comes in. And this is not a Pokemon that really needs shields for. With Scrafty, and even Shiftry can tank a Rock Slide pretty comfortably. Like the backline is very good against Galarian Sunfisk, and even Hypno is not too bad against it because they expect the Fire Punch as well. So all 3 decent against Galarian Sunfisk, and I'm going to get that swap off because our switch timers are out of sync now. He's locked in, and I'm just going to stop him from getting that Rock Slide off. He actually shields his Galarian Sunfisk there from the Power Up Punch. I want to deal as much damage into this Azu as I possibly can. Unfortunately, my shields are down now, right? So I need to deal as much damage as possible, and I can't swap in Shiftry here just go for the KO. So realizing this, I do need to go into my Hypno. I'm really hoping he isn't running Hydro Pump, but he is. And after he unloads his energy, I'm going to swap out to Shiftry. Instead, I'm leaving that punch loaded on Hypno, saving it for later. So yeah, my Hypno will be able to Confusion down this Pokemon, and then I have the Ice Punch to deal with their Galvantula. So even though I went down 2 shields early to this team, I had enough momentum that I was able to overcome that disadvantage. So yeah, you don't need a Bastion to play Switch Advantage. You can play with almost any team. And we're actually going to find a chest pin here. Probably the only decent GBL reward I've received from my 3-win streak, or 3 out of 5 wins in a while. So, but this was a 4-win set as well. I think you'll be seeing a lot more of those for sure. And you can see Hypno, I don't know, in these limited games that you did see Bronzong in, Bronzong doesn't exert the same amount of pressure that Hypno, and especially Shadow Hypno does, just with straight confusions. So that's kind of something. We haven't seen a lot of flyers here besides Skarmory so far, but Tropius and Altaria really suffer from Ice Punch. So we're going to see Bastion lead here. I swap immediately to Shiftry, and I expected to swap right away to a Razor Leafer, but they didn't. They were waiting for me to throw energy. So in this case, I'm just going to throw Foul Play. I think they might think I'm baiting or something like that. I wonder why this video is lagging a little bit, but there we go. It seems to be fixed for the most part, but I'm able to win back Switch Advantage here. I've won plenty of Grass Hole games where I didn't win back Switch Advantage too. It's just in this, you just get 2 shields with Shiftry is the thing, and then you can easily take down a Pokemon with Scrafty later. So they're just going to GG out as soon as their Bastion is locked in with Scrafty. There's nothing they can do there. So this next battle against Mixresk, a very good battler as well, and one of my Patreon supporters. So we're going to see a Skarmory lead here. Actually, remember, I think both of us end up misplaying this battle, but Skarmory lead. It's not something my backline wants to deal with. So I throw the Thunder Punch, and I need to protect my Hypno here because he is my main answer to the Skarmory, and they bring in Azu. So I'm going to swap in my Shiftry, and I do a really bad job of counting moves here. as I'm trying to play the very edge. I only have one shield left, so it's even more important for me to be counting moves, but I charge up a little bit too much. I count 5, but I didn't count the moves properly beforehand. So my Shiftry is going to get KO'd with almost 2 Leaf Blades fully charged. So I'm a bit of a tight spot here. I'm going to have to go back in with S-hadow Hypno and just hope that they don't get to another move. And they don't. So that was my one saving grace. I'm going to go for the Thunder Punch. And then Shadow Machamp in the back. I have 2 charge moves lined up. I go for Ice Punch. I don't really know why. Because Thunder Punch is just as effective, and I haven't shown it yet. We talked about this battle after. But even with the Cross Chop coming out and KOing, Scrafty should be fine to just finish this off. So yeah, that came down to like a one-turn thing because I messed up counting moves. So counting moves is very important with this team, especially in the Shiftry versus Azumarill matchup. You can, like, it's not a guaranteed win, but if they swap an Azumarill, it's almost a guaranteed win. You can exit that matchup with so much energy depending on how many times they shield. So they're going to swap Tropius into my Shiftry. This is perfectly fine. Shiftry's baiting out the fighter, and Shiftry doesn't have too bad of a matchup versus Tropius. I actually get to burn a shield here with Foul Play and deal some extra damage with it too. So ideally they would have shielded twice, but obviously that's not going to happen because then I can nearly one-hit KO with Ice Punch. So at this point, I'm just going to try and farm down this Tropius. It's the Air Slash version, so it's not dealing too much fast move damage. I might have to burn a shield here because I got a little bit greedy with the farm down, but I decided to chance it, and I'll live with just a little bit of HP. I've decided that because I've baited out their flyer, I'm going to try and make Scrafty my MVP here. And here we go. It's a Galarian Stunfisk, and they're not swapping out, which is a very good sign. So I know I can kind of tank anything from Galarian Stunfisk, but they have 2 Pokemon, so I decided to shield. And guess what? It was a Rock Slide. This game is going to be very, very hard. I'm power-up punching so that my foul plays will hurt a little bit more if I'm anticipating this to be a long battle. And I shield. It's just an Ice Beam, unfortunately. Probably shouldn't have shielded. I'm going to try and get to that next foul play, and I'm not going to quite be able to do it. So it's kind of... Oh, I actually got the shield there, and unfortunately when I swap into Hypno, I don't actually get my charge move off. That probably shouldn't happen. I somehow get KO'd by a Mud Shot beforehand, but I really should be able to activate my charge move there. Unfortunately, I would have clicked Thunder Punch anyways, but I had 2 charge moves, and I kind of misplayed that a little bit. But yeah, I'm surprised they didn't bring their Azu earlier into the Scrafty, but we're going to see a Tropius lead here, and I'm going to go straight for the Ice Punch. Barely anyone's running Ice Punch nowadays, so a lot of people don't shield it, and there we go. Tropius almost eliminated, a huge threat to the team. I can even save my shields here, and they're going to swap to Umbreon, and I swap to Shiftry. So this was a misplay. I had to think really fast in the moment, and unfortunately I did not. I shield the first move because I know I'm going to need to shield one last resort anyways, and they're least likely to bait in the with the first move. I'm doing an absolutely awful job at fast move denial here as well. I'm letting through almost every one of their snarls, but at least they are as well. But really I should have just went in with Scrafty and just being able to power up punch and farm all the way down and bring that energy into the next matchup. Shiftry is still pretty good against Umbreon. Like, I'm able to burn all these shields, and I swap in to catch, hopefully, what is a last resort or a foul play, and they're going to come back with Tropius, which is an interesting strategy because they're giving me a ton of energy. But with the Tropius lead, you can expect, guess what, a Galarian Stunfisk. At this HP, I cannot handle an Earthquake, so I go for the power-up punch into foul play. And this is probably just a Rock Slide, which I can take, but I shield anyways just to be safe because I know all they have in the back is an Umbreon. And I'm almost at a Power Punch, and they need to throw energy to KO Scrafty, and I have Shiftry remaining as well. So despite kind of messing up the swap there, it ends up working out not too bad because Scrafty also thumps on Galarian Stunfisk harder than Shiftry does. But that's, I guess, the nature of two Pokemon having generally similar matchups. So Azumarill lead. This is okay to see. Shadow Hypno. This is something Shadow Hypno does that regular Hypno doesn't, is it beats Azumarill in the 1 shield, and I think the 0 shield. I'm going to shield once to be safe. And this one I know for sure is an Ice Beam, so I'll tank it. And I'm going to farm this guy all the way down with 1 shields, and I have a bunch of charge moves ready to go. So I'll just throw an Ice Punch. I'm going to probably swap out here. I'm assuming to Shiftry because they both have good matchups, and I want to bait out their fighter if they have one. So at this point, it doesn't look like they have one, which is good news. This means Hypno won't have to really try and clutch something out with that 1 shield. And I'm just going to try and do as much damage to this Galarian Stunfisk as I can. I know I've already eliminated their Azumarill. That's the one main matchup difference between Shiftry and Scrafty, where Shiftry wins and Scrafty doesn't. So they're going to bring up Meganium, and this is completely fine for me too. I'm going to go for the foul play first because it's least likely to be shielded that way. And at this point, this game is looking pretty easy. I'm just going to preserve my Scrafty here. It doesn't really matter too much though. I have charge moves as well on my Hypno, so I think, I don't know if they know that or not, but they were saving their shields for quite a bit there. And now my Hypno does have a charge move to go against this Stunfisk, ready to go. Actually, it will matter, so because the Stunfisk also had energy. So I actually overtapped there, almost lose the game, and finally get to that Ice Punch, make it a little bit closer than I should have. So yeah, another win there. To see yet another 4 set. Yeah, there's been a lot of 4 sets recently. My win rate has been very high. I think I'm sitting at like 71% win rate right now. Expect that to drop eventually. I don't think I can sustain this kind of play, starting to play against a lot of the other top players. So we'll see how the rest of this season goes. But we do have a couple more sets. I think 2 more sets with this team to go, and we'll see if I can hit. Actually, I don't hit rank 17 with these sets. I hit it in the set afterwards. So unfortunately, that's not in this video, but we're going to see a Pelipper lead. This is also a Pokemon that Hypno kind of has to deal with Thunder Punch. The problem is most Hypnos are running Thunder Punch, so I can expect a shield on this. And I really don't want to have to shield my Hypno, so I am going to try and catch a Weather Ball on Shiftry. So Wing Attacks hurt a lot, but Weather Ball does not, and they're going to swap into Venusaur. It's an interesting swap, especially because Shiftry has an energy advantage. This is not what I would strongly consider a counter, but I'm going to let Shiftry go down, and in fact, they Frenzy Plant, which is a bit smarter for them even, because they're able to farm down afterwards before I can even get to another move. So a bit unfortunate, but now they have a Bastion on the back, which is absolutely great for Scrafty, and I'm going to throw the foul play at this Pelipper because I want it down as fast as possible. And I think they tried to call my bait as a power-up punch, so that's one benefit of Scrafty. Everyone kind of thinks you're baiting. People shield a lot less, and they definitely need to shield their Pelipper there if they wanted to win if I was throwing the foul play. So Galarian Stunfisk lead, I'm going to get right out of there, and they're going to go into Cherrim. And this is Razor Leaf Cherrim, so this is a bit odd. I think Shiftry is pretty good against Razor Leaf Cherrim. Because I land the first foul play, I can just go for Leaf Blades now, because that's all I need to KO. And I do need to be wary of Weather Ball Fire, which is fine. I will spend a shield because I know that I can either win switch advantage or take a shield back. And I actually get to 2 Leaf Blades here, so I could win switch advantage and have something to throw at this Galarian Stunfisk afterwards. Weaken him up so that maybe he doesn't quite get to the 2 charge moves that he would need versus my Scrafty. And we can see this is a modified Grass Hole team. Yet again, I was able to win switch advantage with Shiftry, but I didn't really need to in this case because it's Galarian Stunfisk instead of Bastion. So we're seeing another Galvantula lead. It would be really helpful if I could get a confusion through, but instead we CMP tie. So I wonder if he did this on purpose. I feel like he did, just to keep the consistency in the game. So I'm going to Ice Punch, and we both shielded there. Unfortunately, because he charged up to 4, I have a harder time swapping in on him. And they have a Vigoroth anyway, so I have a lunge debuff Shiftry. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to... I go for a foul play, which is really, really dumb. Like, I should have went for Leaf Blade. I don't know what I was thinking, and because of that, I don't get to that Leaf Blade as well. I could have gotten to 2 Leaf Blades instead. And Vigoroth is not a Pokemon that my team really deals all that well with. So what I'm doing is I'm going to try and catch a Body Slam on Scrafty, because my Hypno cannot take another one. And they're going to come out with Swampert, so I think even if I did get that Leaf Blade off, I was going to be in pretty tight versus this Swampert. I at least get to this foul play. And the Swampert is able to farm me down, which is absolutely awful for Hypno, because I have no shields. So yeah, not sure if Leaf Blading instead of foul playing the Vigoroth would have made a difference, but that was definitely user error on my part. Happens to everyone though. So it is what it is. We see a Medicham lead. This is perfect for Hypno, but they swap right away to Sableye, and I swapped to Scrafty, so I think I'm a bit tilted at this point. I don't think this was the right play. I should have for sure went for Shiftry here, just because Leaf Blades do quite a bit of damage and Snarls are neutral versus counters which don't really do anything, but I'm able to win the one shield with a ton of HP. I'm just going to go straight foul play. I want to deal as much damage to this Azumarill as I can, and I have no intention of shielding my Scrafty, so there's no reason to power up punch this Azumarill. They actually swap out, which is a pretty interesting play, because foul play does a lot more damage to Medicham than it does to Azumarill, and now they're locked in with Hypno. Medicham has Ice Punch, Psychic, Dynamic Punch. Most of it is resisted by Hypno, except for Ice Punch, which is very weak. And I'm just going to no shield here. I know their Azu has enough energy for a move, so I need to save that shield. And I'm just going to go for some Thunder Punches here. Yeah, so I do shield. I think, honestly, in hindsight, the safer play is probably to no shield and bring in Shiftry. Just because there's a potential I could get farmed down here. But I decided to risk it, and we faint at the same time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm making some really weird switch decisions. I guess that's just the nature of me not having played with Scrafty that much before, and Shiftry is relatively new to me as well. My Shiftry is very good IVs, but I've really only used it in Sylph Cups. This is my first GBL team with it. We're going to see another Skarmory lead, so we know how this goes. It's only 5, but I decided to shield anyways, and I throw 2 Confusions, and then the Thunder Punch. This is what you do when you're counting your own fast moves. I throw only 1 there because I know he's going to get to a Sky Attack otherwise. And I decide to let this one through because I feel like they're low enough that I can swap into Shiftry, and they're going to swap right into Deoxys Defense. So Deoxys Defense for Shiftry is a pretty interesting matchup. Once again, I can blow a shield here to make them spend 2, but I decide that it might be better to just try and... I thought I could farm them down with Hypno, but my Hypno is much too low. So I have to spend my energy to take down this Deoxys, and then I'm really hoping that my Scrafty can deal with whatever's in the back. So there's a Diggersby right here. Diggersby, it's the Groudon of Great League, but it is also normal typing, so therefore weak to fighting. So I'm going to try and power punch my way out of this situation. They bring in Skarmory, and I'm going to be able to get another power up punch off. And I really have to hope that they're not at 2 fire punches, because that's what's going to KO me here. That's 1 fire punch, and I'm going to get to my power up punch first. So able to take down that Diggersby. I'm not sure if they maybe hadn't swapped in their Skarm. If they would have won that game, it would have been very close. But another 4 out of 5. So just very consistently picking up wins, despite me making some decently sized misplays. That's for sure. But yeah, really liking that new Stardust update to Shelder. Getting 1,000 Stardust, I think, per Shelder. I think that's the only reason they're putting it in GBL rewards now, because otherwise it's a pretty lackluster Pokemon in all leagues. Maybe Ultra League is its only place to shine, because Dugong doesn't get high enough. I see Deoxys Defense lead. This is a Pokemon you kind of have to take out with Hypno. I charge up to 5. Notice 5 confusions because I'm faking the Shadow Ball. But this guy does not care. He's like, if that's a Shadow Ball, I don't even care. I'm just going to take it. My Deoxys defense is the sacrificial lamb of this. I decide not to shield either. We're going to go for the no shield. I'm going to see if I can get the shield off of him here with this Thunder Punch. Nope, he has Balls of Steel. I will swap in my Shiftry and just farm down, and I will shield to remain healthy, and they're going to bring an Umbreon. So at this point, I'm feeling decently good. If they're bringing an Umbreon, that means their best answer to Shiftry is a Dark type without a non-Dark stab move, so same type attack bonus move. And I can just let my Shiftry go down here. Actually doesn't even faint to the last resort, so I get an extra Leaf Blade off. And I can just bring in Scrafty and farm down. It looks like they overcharged quite a bit, but last resort doesn't hurt too much either, and it's a Galarian Stunfisk in the back, so this is pretty good news. That's why they didn't bring it into the Shiftry. Galarian Stunfisk needs an energy advantage to beat Shiftry for sure. And instead it doesn't have that. So I will just shield up here. Probably a Rock Slide. I feel like the only moves I've shielded on Scrafty are Rock Slides, but it doesn't matter because they won't get to an Earthquake anyways. They were low enough that honestly they probably should have Earthquake. There's no utility to baiting there because they would faint. So this battle versus Azure, very good battler and content creator as well. I believe he was streaming at the time. So they swap into Drifblim. I make a very slow swap into Shiftry, and we talked about this battle afterwards. We both had very different perspectives on how this was going. I go for the bait here because I thought I was far enough behind because I swapped so slowly, like I should have swapped faster, that I needed to bait to catch up. And he thought that there's no way I was possibly going to bait because I thought I had this like switch matchup 1. So it just goes to show two different battlers having different perspectives on the game based on what their team is, kind of deal. So I end up taking that Drifblim down there, which is pretty important, and I'll get to this Foul Play versus this Altaria. Altaria is a Pokemon that this team has a bit of trouble with, unless you can land the Ice Punch. And I actually go into Scrafty here, because I realize that his other Pokemon is a Toxicroak. So while S-hadow Hypno is my best way of dealing with Altaria, I still have to go in with Scrafty and tank that Sky attack. And because I have his Altaria now at reasonably low HP, I can take down this Toxicroak no problem. My lost condition there was letting my Scrafty beat their Altaria and then having their Toxicroak farm down my Scrafty. So what I wanted to do there was either have my Scrafty faint or swap in my Hypno into a low HP Altaria. So speak of the devil, Altaria lead again. I'm going to go straight for the Ice Punch. They don't expect it most of the time. I no shield just so it's less likely that they'll shield as well. If you shield, people are like, oh, I'll match shields. Like, that's fine. You know, like, he spent a shield, I'll spend a shield. So instead I get this Ice Punch off and they're going to swap right away. And then I'm a bit slow, but to be honest, with the Azumarill versus Shiftry matchup, it really does not matter too much. I'm just going to count some moves. So that's 3. They're probably not going to shield this because you don't shield the first one. And then that's 4. And they're actually at 5 bubbles now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do shield this and go for an Ice Beam. They do. But this is a perfectly fine situation for me. Every shield that we trade means I get an extra couple Snarls up on a Leaf Blade on them. So it's actually Toxicroak coming back in. It's also like a little bit less HP for the next Pokemon to come farm down on. But I'm able to swap right away. And because their Altaria is low, I don't mind swapping in right away. That's completely fine with me. Because S-hadow Hypno can take down both Pokemon. I threw the Ice Punch just to be safe. I did Fast Move Deny as well. But I threw the Ice Punch just to burn the shield, just in case I needed to bring in Scrafty to finish that off at the end. That was like a to be safe play. So we're going to see a Bastion lead here. I'm going to swap to Shiftry, and guess what? This is not Grasshole. This is a Scrafty counter swap. This might actually be the worst case scenario. Scrafty counter swap is incredibly powerful. I don't really have a Pokemon on this team that can deal with a loaded Scrafty after it's farmed down Shiftry. right? Because if I bring in Hypno, I'm just going to get foul played. If I bring in Scrafty, I'm just like, I'm going to get power up punched, and then his Scrafty is going to hit my Scrafty harder. And even though it's both for super effective damage. So there's no way I can take advantage of this decently low HP Scrafty. Look, I end up having to spend a shield on a power up punch. This is such a bad feeling. In hindsight, I probably should have maybe swapped to catch the last power up punch. But instead, I swap out of that Galvantula because, well, I need to save my Scrafty for this Bastion at the end. So we're going to see how this goes. I really need to hope that this Bastion throws his energy at my Hypno. You can see my Hypno is actually doing a decent amount of damage with Thunder Punches alone, and they elect to throw their energy there, but this game is incredibly hard. Yeah, their Galvantula is already at a move, so I'm not going to be able to win this game. So the Scrafty counter swap, I think that's the biggest counter to this team, is a Scrafty in the back. So it'd be interesting to see how the mirror plays out, right? Because usually you'd want to switch in a Hypno versus Hypno situation, but as soon as you switch, you're going to get farmed down by the Scrafty. So it's an interesting scenario for sure. S-hadow Hypno comes in. I didn't remember my matchup correctly on this one, so I go straight for the foul play instead of over farming a little bit, which is a dumb mistake because it one-shots S-hadow Hypno. I think I was thinking of Mandibuzz because Mandibuzz does not one-shot S-hadow Hypno. It leaves it with a little bit of HP so you can farm all the way down. Shiftry, however, is too powerful. It does KO. And unfortunately, because I was at a little bit higher HP than I liked, I'm going to have to spend a shield on Night Slash here on Surfetched, and they're actually going to swap out as well. So their win condition here is being able to farm down my Scrafty, but if my Scrafty is either low enough HP or if it's high enough HP that they aren't able to farm it down, those are my win conditions. So I decide to try and power up punch my way through this situation and just beat this Surfetched in a straight slugfest. Of a power up punch here will be enough to get it really low, and yeah, one more hit, I'm able to take down this Surfetched. That was a good play by my opponent, though. They had a good game plan there, trying to wiggle around and get Night Slashes off on my S-hadow Hypno, but if you can read that kind of game plan, then it makes it much harder for them to pull that kind of thing off. But I think this is the last set in this video that is going to put us at a total of 19 out of 25 wins. So this team honestly performed very admirably. I really do like Shiftry as a safe switch. I want to find another team for it as well. Maybe even as a lead or a closer. I just think it's a really strong Pokemon. It has such great coverage. Leaf Blade is so good. Like, being able to charge up Leaf Blade that fast is just, it's a bit unfair. And Dark just has such good neutral coverage with it that you don't really get walled by anything. Nothing really comes in on Shiftry and doesn't care. It's like Mandibuzz and that's it. And how many Mandibuzz have I seen besides my own? Like, almost none. So but yeah, had a lot of fun with this team for sure. Check out Verg's videos too if you haven't. I don't know if he plays this team the same way as I do with the same methodology, but more perspectives is always better. And as always, I'm going to put the link to my Patreon if you guys want to support me in the description. And if not, then come join my Discord. It's just hang out. I'll put that link in the description as well. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.